Good morning. Having a little bit of technical difficulties over there. Could you hear the theme music on your side?
I hear something.
Okay. All right. But hey, Happy New Year. And I'm your host, Tony Twist. This is ATW, All Things Wrestling Podcast. And I am joined by my new co host, Miss Mo out of NYC, originally from the Culture 316 podcast, but now
Still
she's
is.
our official co host. Good afternoon and good morning. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yourself?
Oh, not too bad. Haven't done a show in like 6 weeks, so feeling a little rusty. But man, is there a lot to talk about in the world of professional wrestling? It's been kind of a shit show for the last couple of weeks.
Oh
Uh,
my god.
lots of drama, lots of drama. But we're gonna get all into that. But I'm excited because we're kicking off the new year. We got some changes coming to the show. We got a new intro coming. Hopefully, in the next couple weeks, we'll go ahead and show that to everybody. I'm excited for everyone to see that. But we have also a guest to kick off 2023. Excited to announce this gentleman. He's out of Arizona. PCWUltra Az. If you're not familiar with PCWUltra, they're based out of Southern California, and this is like that they have like an Arizona division too. I don't know. I guess he'll probably explain it to us a little bit better. But we have Mr. Kevin Koa out of Arizona. Kevin, good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, man. Just I don't know what the weather's like down in Arizona or down in the valley. I'm in northern Arizona. We're supposed to get a snowstorm, but nothing but rain right now, man. How about you guys down there?
Um, Me personally, I don't like anything that's below 70 degrees, so that's freezing for me. So it's pretty cloudy up here, but nonetheless, it's cold.
Well, hey, man, appreciate you coming on the show. Happy Sunday. Our audience wants to know all about you, man. Tell us what got you started in the pro wrestling, how long you been in the game, on your PCW Ultra, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yeah, man, we want to hear all about it.
Yeah. My I started training back in 2002, back in Hawaii, where I'm from. So I trained about 2 years. I moved to Arizona in 2004, and I kind of just like walked away from it because I didn't feel that same energy that I once had when I first started. And so from 2004 to like 2016, I was just like not paying attention to wrestling at all. Like I just walked away from it completely. And then life happened. Um, and then just around like 2020, 2021, I started thinking like maybe I should try it one more time to see how far I can go with it. I'm 38 right now. So my girlfriend right now was like, if you don't do it now, when are you gonna do it? So I looked up pro wrestling training schools in the area, and I landed on Arizona Pro Wrestling Training Center. Head trainers are Dom Vitale and Gabriel Gallo, and I started my journey last year in February. I restarted it, so since then it's been a roller coaster ride of emotions, pain, struggles, and it's just been a really fun ride, nonetheless.
So would you say like this go round has definitely got you feeling the bug, and you're like, all right, I'm back. Interesting time to jump back in. So did you jump back in like right around the time of the pandemic?
Yeah, so I was going to the gym, I was trying to get my body prepared for pro wrestling training and all that, and the pandemic hit, and I just shut everything down. You know, I couldn't go to the gym, I couldn't do anything, so I shut everything down. And once everything started slowly picking back up, that's when I really started heavily thinking into like I should do this. You know, I should give it one more shot and see how far I can go with it.
Now, I know we had Gabriel Gallo back on the show. I think it was in October. Um, and I mean, he's big dude, been in the game a long time. Being under guys like that or Dom Vitale, what's that experience been like?
It's been real eye opening because they've shown me another aspect of pro wrestling, especially in training, psychology, um, and even just the little things like traveling, networking, and how to navigate the waters that is pro wrestling, whether it's working in your home promotion or in other promotions. And it's like I'm just like a sponge, like soaking up all the info that they're giving me, and I just apply it, and it's so far it's worked out well for me.
Now, Gabriel, he's traveled all over the world. He had some really good stories when he came on. Um, where have you been? I know you said you kind of had almost like two parts to your wrestling journey. Where have you traveled? Where are you kind of looking forward to travel to? Are you still any kind of a way associated with New Japan here in the States?
So far I wrestle in my home promotion, excuse me, of Phoenix Championship Wrestling. I've done some dark matches over at PCWUltra. They're kind of like they're kind of like that's like our next step, basically like our feeding system. Like we're the NXT to their like WWE. So I've wrestled dark matches at Ultra. I've wrestled matches at Future Stars of Wrestling up in Vegas. And I did a week camp, a special camp at the New Japan Dojo, LA Dojo. That was eye opening to say the very least, because it's man, that opened up a whole new level of respect for me. And just the way they train, it's like a totally different dynamic, like nothing that I was used to or ever saw before.
Now, when you say that, like the training, so are you training with a lot of Japanese wrestlers? Are they kind of coming in and kind of teaching the school and teaching the wrestlers? I guess what's the biggest difference between like you working with PCW Ultra and New Japan? What are the big differences between the styles of teaching and kind of how the guys are wrestling?
What I learned at the LA dojo, they're strictly like sport based training, so like everything's intense. You gotta have really great cardio for that. I got to work with Clark Connors, uh, a New Japan star, Clark Connors. He's helped me a lot, even before going to the dojo, and and as well as after, because he stops by our training center every once in a while, to work, get in a workout or help out us younger guys, you know, prepare for that journey if we want to go to New Japan. Um, so far, I've just been working with like local guys here and um, California guys, Vegas guys, just taking in, just working with everyone and anyone.
I have a question. So, speaking of major promotions, if you could get signed to any major one at the moment, which one would it be, and which worker or talent would you be interested in working with?
Uh, for me, I would sign with New Japan. That's been my goal uh, before training, and even when I was younger, like when I was 18. Like I was always fond of strong style, Japanese strong style.
Mhm.
I watched Hayabusa, Great Muta, Misawa, Kawada, Kobashi. I was always very fond of their style.
Interesting.
Just, just it, to me, Japanese wrestling is. I'm more intrigued and entertained by their style.
Understood. So, what was your introduction to wrestling exactly? Were you someone that grew up on watching WWE like most of us, or did you, see New Japan and identify with that immediately?
My dad, when I was little, like was watching WrestleMania. So once he popped that in, I saw that, and I was just hooked on uh, WWE style. And then I didn't really see Japanese wrestling until like in my early teens, late teens,
Hmm.
um, just through our uh, Japanese channel back in Hawaii. I caught like a commercial for Japanese wrestling, and I was just let me look into that. And that was like at the start of like internet, and I looked up on the internet and I saw some videotapes over at Blockbuster and Suncoast and all that places, and I just started diving. I dove into that wormhole.
Got it. So I know you mentioned WrestleMania. Did you have like a particular wrestler from either promotion that you kind of just resonated with, where it just like it clicked in your head, like I gotta be that guy, or I want to do this?
For me, it was Hulk Hogan.
Oh,
Like as soon as I saw Hulk Hogan, I wanted to be like Hulk Hogan. I wanted to be as big as him. I wanted to have, I wanted to be as popular. I wanted to be famous, and everything I did was just like everything was Hulk Hogan, and then it just that's what started it, and then it transitioned to like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and everyone that came up after. I just tried to pick bits and pieces of each wrestler that I wanted to emulate.
and do you tie that into right now, or do you feel like you kind of just came into your own with the character that you have currently?
Right now, like I've taken the most I'm trying to emulate is Kane, who's my favorite big man.
Ooh, good choice. Good choice.
Yeah. So, because at first when I started training, I had this idea of who I wanted to be. I wanted to be like this strong style, kind of like kickboxer, grappler, very reminiscent of uh, like ZSJ, like Zack Sabre Jr. or
Hmm.
um, Shibata. That's who I wanted. That's who I wanted to be like. That's what I, in my head, that's who I wanted to be. But when I started training, my trainers saw me as someone else, like a someone who's very big, monstrous. Just want to beat people down. And it took me a long time to get used to that mindset. That's the style that I'm going to be working.
Now, just to kind of see, so Mo, I've seen Kevin wrestle live, and so he's very chilled and laid back. But his character, when he's wrestling, this dude's a beast. And
I was watching a few of his clips. I believe him. He looks dangerous.
Kevin, how tall are you? I know you're a pretty big dude.
I'm 6'1".
Okay.
So yeah.
No, you could have fooled me. You look very tall. Even
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I was like third row at a match here, and I could have swore he looked a lot bigger than that. But I think just wrestlers in general just look big, anyways. I know you talk about the strong style. Did you catch? So WWE for the first time is working and kind of opened the door, working with Japan a little bit. They used to work with Japan back in the 70s and 80s a lot. Did you catch the Shinsuke Nakamura and Great Muta match that they had recently?
Yes, I did. I was very eagerly waiting to watch that match as when it was first announced. Because
Right.
one thing, like usually WWE doesn't like let their talent travel anywhere outside and do shows, outside of their own co-promotion or whatever. But it was really interesting to see like Shinsuke battle Muta for like one last time.
That was a pretty awesome match. What was your takeaway from that match? Did
Uh,
it live up to the hype?
I think it did. It took me on a roller coaster ride of emotions. Given the history of Shinsuke and Muta, I mean, it just played into everything that I expected it to.
Now you were talking about Hulk Hogan being a huge influence. I'm a few years older than you, so obviously going back to my youth, Hogan was like the be all end all for pro wrestling. But a lot of people don't know this, and I actually just caught some of his clips recently of him wrestling in Japan because the WWF back in the day, they would let guys travel and they would represent them. And Hulk Hogan actually did quite a bit of time in Japan. He also actually wrestled over 50 matches. Have you seen any of the highlights? Because I've seen them recently, seeing like Hogan doing like an enziguri and all these things that you would have never seen Hogan doing in the WWF. It was pretty wild because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Hulk Hogan has actually shrunk quite a bit because he's had the issues with his back. he's lost quite a few inches on his height. Because back in the day when he wrestled Andre the Giant, I mean, he was, Andre was huge, but he wasn't that much shorter than Andre. I mean, he was like, they were just two dinosaurs going at it. But if you see Hogan now, I mean, shit, he might be like 6'2", 6'3". But for a guy his size doing like insecurities and just the Japanese style wrestling was pretty insane to watch. Have you seen any of those clips? Because they've been popping up a lot for some reason on the internet.
Yeah, I've seen him wrestle Inoki, and I believe he won the first IWGP title belt during the tournament. But
Right.
just seeing him grapple and like chain wrestle, because I haven't seen him do it in WWF or E, because he's always entertainment based. So, but to see him wrestle in Japan and see him grapple and do an insecurity or just anything that's not Hulk Hogan in the US was like eye opening for me. It's like, wow, this guy can really move. As big as he is, he can still move.
Right. What would you say, since Hogan was a big influence for you, man? What's one of your favorite Hogan matches that he had?
My favorite has to be him versus The Rock at WrestleMania 18. Just icon versus icon. That match was like edge of my seat. Like going into that match, I was rooting for The Rock, and somewhere in that match, I ended up wanting Hogan to win. And
Right.
to me, that's like you change my emotion during the match, and I'm like, all right, before the match, I want Rock to win, like kick Hogan's ass and everything. And then during the match, I'm like, no, Hogan needs to win. I want Hogan to win. Like have him Hulk up, drop the leg, everything. And that has to be my favorite match. Other than followed secondly, I think for me, very closely second would have to be Hogan versus Warrior at WrestleMania 6.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's crazy that you bring up The Rock and Hogan. I was actually at that match live in Toronto, 5 rows back. In person, it was probably the greatest match I think I've ever seen. I've been to a handful of WrestleManias, tons of WWE events, watched so many WrestleManias, but that's a match I can go back and I can watch over and over and over and over. To me, I think it's the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, hands down. Nothing beats that match. And I think a lot of what's kind of, for me, being an old school wrestling fan, is lost is the actual in-ring psychology.
Absolutely.
That guys were just the master at. And now it seems like, I know you said you don't really watch too much of, the WWE and AEW nowadays, but it seems like, I hate to pick on AEW, but it seems like a lot of guys are just spot wrestlers. They're just picking their spots. It's not necessarily putting on a good match from start to finish. I have a few guys that are my favorites that I love to watch that I just think are amazing. But I don't know. To me, a lot of that old school in-ring psychology, I think that's kind of what we're missing in today's world. But I don't know if it'll translate because, the younger generation, everything is just, fast and speed, and they want to see that spot wrestling. But I wish we would get back to some of that old school type of wrestling, because to me, I don't think anything beats that.
Yeah, that's something that we harp on at our training center. Like we try to tell stories like in the ring, and we're not just trying to do moves for the sake of doing moves, and we're not doing moves to get us over with the crowd. Like we're trying to build stories during the matches. We're trying to tell stories in our matches, and we're trying to use our in-ring psychology and use character work to tell that story in the ring, just to get people to feel a certain way, to get us to cheer us, to boo us, like we're not necessarily like doing spotty moves just to get people to react,
Right.
I agree. It's like the little things that matter. Like I noticed, as you mentioned earlier, Tony, with AEW, my biggest ick is that people like forget like the little things such as selling an injury Like they'll do like a 350 splash and the person stands up right after. You know, sorry, 450 splash, and they'll stand up right after. And I'm just like, why aren't you holding your back or holding your gut and selling that it hurts throughout the match? You know, that was a big move. You know, so I feel like it's little stuff like that that does matter. You know, I do feel like ring psychology is a lost art. And I wish they would bring it back. I really do wish that they would bring it back. But I think that with this generation, they kind of lack an attention span. So they need so much like back to back to back to back. You know, so when I was looking through your work, I was kind of happy to see that you're bringing back this classic wrestling moves because I feel like they're missing the art of actual wrestling. It's more gymnastics now than it is wrestling. And sometimes less is more. And I think you even pointed it out in one of your videos, like what a backbreaker. You know, it's simple but effective. You know, and I would love to see more stuff like that. So I do really enjoy your style of work.
Yeah, thank you. It's like I've learned that from Gallo and Don Vitale. Like, just I don't have to do a whole lot. I don't have to keep doing moves just to like send people to tell my story or to send people a message. You know, just one backbreaker. You know, have them sell it, and I just stand up and just play to the crowd. You know, like tell everyone like you guys all suck. You know, like I'm gonna beat his ass. You know, and just have him sell, and then I'll just run. You know, just put the boots to him. You know, just keep work. You know, pick a body part and just keep working it. I don't have to do a whole lot to get that message across.
Interesting. So on that topic, since you just mentioned, you know, making the crowd angry, do you enjoy being more of a heel or a baby face?
I've I have been primarily training just to be a heel. I'm trying to work like in training wise, like I'm trying to get more practice as a face. Um, because the running joke at our school is that like I'm too ugly to be a face, so that's why I'm a heel.
Oh my god.
Damn.
So you know
Ruthless.
it's all fun, you know. So I'm like, you know, we just all laugh at it. So it's like, all right, cool. You know, I'll be that heel. You know, so I'm still in the early stages of like, you know, perfecting my craft. I still have a lot of work to do, especially like, you know, playing to the crowd because sometimes I'll just be so focused on my opponent, you know, in you know putting the boots to him, you know, and just you know hitting my moves on him and just letting him sell. I'll forget that there's a crowd there, and I need to interact with them so that they can feel and they can empathize with my opponent. You know, because I'm beating my opponent, but I'm really trying to beat the crowd, and
Of course.
I'm beating the crowd through my opponent,
It's a
and that's
lot of
what I'm.
multitasking. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like sometimes I'll be one track minded. You know, I'll do good in like match wise technically, but then I'll forget, you know, to play to the crowd. You know, and then sometimes like I remember at Ultra I was doing a dark match, and I think I was working with I was wrestling Devin Reno, and I was quiet throughout halfway through the match. I was like quiet. I was you know, beating Devin. I was, you know, hitting my spots. I was laying the heat on him, and I put him in a chin lock.
Mhm.
And that's what I noticed. Like, I'm not saying anything to the crowd. I'm like, I need to say something to them. So the first thing that came to my mind was to tell them to shut up. And then, and then
Effective.
I got a reaction. I was like, oh, damn, this is easy. I forgot. And like, I need to start talking to them more. So I'm like, and then for like the rest of the match, I started being more vocal. But had I done that in the beginning, I think I would have had a more engaged uh, match with the fans.
Now, being that you're kind of coming off as the heel, and that you're really embracing that, who would be a guy that you grew up watching, or you know anybody even today? What kind of heel you're like? All right, you know I want to kind of emulate that, or what would you who would you consider be like the best heel, or some of the best heels that you kind of love, and maybe put a little bit of that into your character?
I like a lot of Triple H's heel work. Um,
Mhm.
uh, I, I I I watch a lot of Jay White. Um, it's like for his trash talking and his promos. That's pretty much who I gravitate to as far as like heel work. Um, yeah, pretty much that's like off the top of my head. That's pretty much who I try to emulate.
Right. Sorry, Mo. You look like you. I don't know if you were trying to say something or I had something
Oh
lag.
no, I'm very engaged right now. And I'm trying not to overact, so I feel like I'll just keep going if you let me.
No, it's all good. That's what we're here for. It's our first show back. Our first guest. Ask away.
Well, I had a question because I always wanted to know this, especially since you're a part of like, I guess, transitioning to both generations of crowds. I feel like the crowds nowadays, they kind of like, I explain it. I feel like they're a lot harder to please. Fans are very quick to be negative. Do you like ever struggle with like working with the crowd or trying to like find something that sticks with them? Because I feel like nowadays anything, like you could just do one thing and I feel like people will just write you off nowadays. Or I feel like the mindset is very different as opposed to back in the day. Like before, we used to like cheer for the baby face because we're supposed to cheer for the baby face and hate on the heel because we're supposed to hate on the heel. And I feel like it's very confusing for wrestlers nowadays to like know what to do that sticks. Because again, we're very opinionated and we don't operate the same. So do you struggle with any of that, with resonating with today's audience?
Yeah, I really do struggle with that because sometimes I'll do like the simplest things to like get the crowd angry. But what'll throw me off is that some people in the crowd will actually cheer the heels, and so when I get that mixed reaction, I'm like, oh no, like my brain just like, okay, now what do I do? Like I just
Mhm.
did this thing that should be able to get the crowd mad. Like I'm cranking on a guy's neck, screaming, I'm gonna break it. Like I'm gonna snap his neck. I'm gonna snap his neck, and I'll have half the people will be like, "You suck, you suck, you ain't gonna do
Mhm.
it." I was like, "I'll do it," and then I'll have another. I have like a certain set of people here screaming, "Do it, break his neck," you know. I'm like, what do I do? You know. So I'm like, I'm at a crossroad. I'm like stuck in the middle. Like, do I cater to the fans that are cheering me, or do I just be a total heel and just like write everyone off? You know, so like I'm still playing with that. I'm still trying to figure that out. Um, and that's pretty much my biggest challenge. That's my biggest challenge right now is just like engaging with the crowd. No matter if it's Ultra or FSW or even here.
Okay. Anything you want to add on to that, Tony?
No, I think that was a really interesting question that you brought up because, yeah, I mean, the fans today just are very different. I've been going to wrestling shows since I was like 4 years old, and it's interesting to see how things have changed. And I love watching some of these old matches back. And like I said, I'll watch that Rock Hogan match from WrestleMania 18. I'll probably watch it like once a month just because I fucking love that match. And the in-ring psychology is amazing. The crowd is engaged. Nobody's on a phone. Like everybody's actually watching the match. Because back in
Mhm.
the day, we weren't distracted by a million things. I didn't have a smartphone in my hand. I'm checking my Instagram and my Twitter and my fucking dating apps and all this other bullshit that keeps us distracted. And it's like, man, I just wish could go back to that. You know what I mean? Go to a wrestling show and really enjoy it from start to finish. I just feel like a lot of the entertainment, really in all different facets, everyone is catering to that. It's got to be quick hit. Everybody's attention span is very short. In a way, that just makes me kind of sad. So it's like, I wish, it's like you can kind of go back to that, but we can't. But yeah, that is interesting, Kevin. That yeah, that's a really good question, and psychology behind that. It's just like, man, just it's like you wish you could just kind of slap the audience. It's like, hey, this is what we're
Yeah.
doing here. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's why I had to applaud him for wanting to come back because I feel like that transition is so strange. Like even for me, and I've only been watching since '04, and it's just a weird transition. You know what I mean? So I feel like to be able to adjust to every single generation and every change, kind of like how Chris Jericho does that with ease, it's so impressive to me. But you can hate on that man all you want, but what's so impressive is like he's able to just adapt to the times. You
right.
know, instead of just staying in one lane. I understand completely from anyone that used to watch back in the day why they think that's better, or that's more ideal. I totally get it. But like for someone that's able to just adjust or even take on the challenge, such as Kevin himself, like that's really honorable. I feel like it's so hard. I wouldn't even know like how to go about it. There's so much overthinking that would go into it because you don't know what is good enough, you know, what works or what really doesn't work until you open up the internet and someone's slandering you or praising you. And that's another thing. They're either very much on this side or very much on this side. Like fans make up their minds very easily and jump to conclusions very easily. So I can understand why it could be a little bit overwhelming, or why some wrestlers, may give up on the sport or have to take breaks from the sport. So I mean, I think it's amazing that you do want to come back and you want to take on this challenge. Even again, especially like at your age bracket, because a lot of people, they'll utilize ageism and say like you're too old to get into it right now. What are you doing? And I honestly think again, it's like honorable just because like it's hard. It's just very hard. It's quite the challenge. And I see what you're doing, and I like your work so far. Did you get to catch up on anything that happened with the recent New Japan show, since you said you were a New Japan fan?
I've seen like my most recent event that I saw was Wrestle Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Staying up like 2 o'clock in the morning trying to watch the whole event. But um yeah, like the big ones, like I've seen Wrestle Kingdom. I was especially invested in the Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay match.
Oh
That
yes.
that match was wow. I mean, I really wanted Ospreay to win, but I mean,
Me too.
yeah, the work that they put in, and that was, I mean, you want to talk about emotional roller coaster, that was it for me. Like, I mean, even the high spots that they did, it's just like, oh my God, they're trying to kill each other, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, especially with the backstage heat that we hear between those two. It felt real. And that's another thing that's exciting about, watching wrestling matches like that, when you know that they're blending the real life into the fictional, and they're able to like display that into the ring, because you didn't know how stiff these guys were going, and there were some shots that were very, very stiff, and I couldn't tell if it was because that's just New Japan style, or were these men actually trying to kick each other's head off at some point. But my other question about that, since you said you want to go to New Japan, I noticed with a lot of wrestlers that go to New Japan, they don't want to stay there for too long because they often complain about how the stiffness of New Japan style like catches up to them, and that they want to eventually like transition to something that's not as demanding. Because a lot of New Japan matches could easily run for like 30 minutes. Some matches are like an hour. And as you just previously stated, it's a lot of like ring cardio and all that stuff. So like, do you think like that's something that you like could still handle? Because it's just a lot.
Yeah, I mean, like even during training, I'm very like my training and my in-ring work like translates, so like I'm not I don't think I'm stiff, but people have told me that it looks vicious when I strike someone. So like I just feel like if I were to go to New Japan, I feel like I feel like I would be able to handle it. I can't really say for sure because I haven't worked with anyone aside from Clark Connors, to see if my body can handle it or even handle that schedule or their style of working a match. So I mean, that to me would be more interesting, and that would be like a goal to reach, to have like a New Japan wrestling match here in the States or even in Japan.
That's amazing.
Now you were saying that because I know you guys are part of like PCWUltra out of Southern California. So is that kind of the next step? Like you got to transition to working there?
Yeah. So for me, like being on the main card of like PCWUltra, that would be like my next step into like making it to the next level. Because I know PCWUltra crowds are like really big and they're really passionate and they're very loud, and
Right.
I feel and I feel like moving from dark matches, pre-show matches to the main card, that'll get more eyes on me, and maybe get a following, and then maybe put me in touch with bigger names and bigger companies.
Well, I'm gonna put you on the spot right now, Kevin. So if we're going to PCW Ultra in California, who would you love to just get your hands on and wrestle, man? Who's a guy like I really wanna get in the ring with him?
Man, um, I would. There's so many. Well, I know there's War Beast.
War Beast, yeah.
Yeah. But I really think I would like to. Like, there's so many people there. Like War Beast. I wouldn't. I would love to work with Jacob Fatu, Sheik, um, Papa Esco. Um, there's a lot of like the bigger guys, because I feel like
Hammerstone's there, right?
yeah, Hammerstone's there. I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I would love. Like I've worked with Hammerstone here,
Mhm.
and that was like my second singles match was with Hammerstone, and so I would really love to work with him again on a bigger scale, like PCW Ultra. I think that would be that'll be a test for me to see if I can get over with the crowd with someone as big as Hammer.
Right. And a friend of the show, the Pro Wrestling Podcast, is saying Dallas King. I'm not familiar with Dallas King, but is that a guy you're familiar with?
Yeah, I've trained with him. He's actually one of the students over at our school. Well, yeah, I don't think I've worked like we've trained together, but I don't think we've had a match anywhere, either here or California. So that'll be an interesting match for us to have.
Right.
So
Question. Do you have like a Mount Rushmore of today's current wrestlers and old wrestlers from, a few eras ago?
let's see.
That's usually
For
the
my
question that
yeah.
stumps everybody. Who's your Mount Rushmore?
I feel like you
Present.
have to separate it, because it's different for, now and then.
No,
Usually,
see, I think you got to combine them. I think you can have past, present. I think
yeah,
anybody can be on there, really.
yeah.
No. Okay.
So for my Mount Rushmore, number one would be Hayabusa. Um, he, like, I loved how he worked. I just loved like his high flying. He was able to do power moves, and I was like super skinny when I first, saw him, and when I first started training. So like when I saw Hayabusa, that's who I wanted to be. Like everything, face paint, the mask, his fighting style. Like I wanted to be everything about him, and um, and unfortunately, I didn't start training until after his accident, and then that like that rocked my brain like hard because I didn't want to do a moonsault after I saw his accident, like
Right.
ever. So that kind of freaked me out. But he's my number one. Um, Second would be Kane, especially his 2001 run. That's my favorite version of Kane, 2001, 2002. Next would be Scott Hall. Scott Hall, Razor Ramon,
May he rest in
and
peace.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then my fourth would probably be Jay White.
That's solid. It's pretty solid.
That's an interesting Mount Rushmore, man. No Ric Flair, no Hogan, no Stone Cold, none of those guys, huh?
Yeah, they were very popular. Like I liked them, um, but I feel like I couldn't like it didn't resonate to me, or I couldn't relate to them because like
Right.
they're like on this grander scale, like they were just so larger than life, and I just feel like Hayabusa and King, Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, and Jay White, I can like I'm drawn to them because I see myself like them. And
Right.
so that I gravitate towards them because I could see myself doing what Kane did or Hayabusa or my trunks and my character or my charisma is very Scott Hall esque, and and my promos I try to do very much like Jay White does. So those are like my Mount Rushmore is like literally who I'm trying to emulate in the ring.
That's awesome, man. I love that explanation. I hear wrestlers give that sometimes, and yeah, they just give like the most popular guys or whatever. But yours actually makes a lot more sense. And then you being in the industry, yeah, it's got to be guys who resonate with you. If we would have asked you when you were a kid, it would have probably been a totally different answer.
Oh yeah, very very much different. It would have been all over the place.
Right. Well, hey, man, we really appreciate you coming on the show. Do you got any shows coming up? I know the Arizona, indie scene is pretty busy, man. What do you got coming? Plug away. Tell our audience where we can find you on social media.
Yeah, so I'll be at the PCWUltra show in Southern California on the 27th. I'll also be at a Lucha show on the 28th in Fresno, I believe. And I'll be back at Future Stars of Wrestling in Las Vegas on the 29th. As far as my next match, it'll probably be at the Lucha show on the 28th, and for Slam U, which is like our student show from Phoenix Championship Wrestling. That'll take place on February 16th.
Oh, okay. That'll be a nice post Valentine's Day date, right? Bring your date to go check out a show in Phoenix.
Yeah, if you don't like your date, just send them my way and I'll beat the crap out of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. So where can we find you on social media, man? Tell our audience we're Twitter, Instagram. Where are you on Twitch playing video games? Seems like wrestlers are just all over the place nowadays.
Man, if I only had time to be playing video games with my busy schedule. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at _Koa_808.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, appreciate you coming on, man. I see big thanks for you, man. I love watching you in the ring. The character's awesome, and wish you best of luck. And I got to come down to Phoenix and check out a show. I know Gallo invited me down. I think it was in November, but I got kids and one of them got sick and this and that. So it's like traveling down from Prescott. The show was like a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
And, I usually just crash with family or something. So I definitely got to make my way down, maybe for that February 16th show.
Yeah, come on down, and enjoy Phoenix Championship Wrestling or Slam U, and we'll make sure you have a great time.
We'll see if we can get Mo to come out from New York, get her to leave her bubble in New York.
I'll give it a shot. I'm definitely interested.
Well, Kevin, Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you coming on the show. Everybody, Kevin Koa. This guy, keep an eye out for him. He's going to be big. Check him out on social media. Check out his shows. And Kevin, thanks so much for joining us, man. We appreciate it. We hope you have a good Sunday.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you too.
Well, that was awesome. I love talking to indie wrestlers. I just love hearing stories. I love, to hear just everything that influences them from top to bottom, how they get started. We've had so many independent wrestlers on the show, and I love hearing everybody's journey. Everybody's coming from a different place, and I loved hearing what he had to say. You had a really great question asking about the crowd and their engagement and how he kind of feels and bridging that gap. So that was really cool. And his Mount Rushmore was very interesting.
Yeah, very fascinating character in person, I should say. But I feel like we do need to engage with more independent wrestlers more because they are technically our future.
Right.
And that's something I'm learning to appreciate more being a wrestling fan, So I thought he was just a very interesting person to interview today.
Yeah. So where are you broadcasting from? I don't it doesn't look like where you've been at before.
No, it's still my house.
Oh,
I just switch different spots sometimes.
well, I know you're running behind this morning. So what was going on? Why was it such a crazy ass morning?
Just chaos, man. My schedule is already insane. Like
Yeah.
I'm up at the crack of dawn and I'm just squeezing everything in. And I was just pissed because at some point I was driving back. There was a nasty car accident. People were driving like they just didn't know how to fucking drive at some point. I was just like, dude, I'm about to be late. Tony's gonna kill me. This man's gonna like kick my head off.
Shit
now I know he's a fan of
happens.
Kane.
But it looks like we got a fan on Twitch. I posted this earlier. I think this person's talking to you.
The One Piece is real. How do you know I was wearing a One Piece?
No, but
I got a good set of eyes.
Digital Market said the One Piece is real, and I was like, I think that's for Mo, not for me.
Well, thanks.
So, anyways, hey, I am so excited to have you on the show. I really appreciate you stepping up and taking the co-host spot. I know you are a busy lady, so very much appreciate it. It was you had some great questions, and I love doing these kind of interviews. But holy shit, the new year has started out with drama when it comes to WWE. So I want to get your take on the current situation of WWE. If you've been living under a rock, the WWE has over the last year gone through some just crazy transition and crazy shit. Everything from Vince McMahon stepping down amid some sexual allegations against him and paying off women millions of dollars of money was allocated incorrectly, and man, it's just crazy. And over the last 6 months, WWE has been on a different track. Triple H and Stephanie kind of running things and putting on a much better product. But, you know, the rumor always was Vince still kind of pulling the strings behind the curtain. But now Stephanie's gone. Vince McMahon's back. A lot of rumors of who's going to buy him. What's your take on all this, Mo?
It's too much. Like my blood pressure is like up here with this show. I cannot with Vince. All right. First off, he scared all the hoes away. He scared Sasha away. He doesn't scare Naomi away. Let's start with there.
Naomi's still with the company, though.
He's still with the company, but I know she don't want to be there. If her man wasn't there, she wouldn't be there. To be honest, this place is a shit show. That's point number one I want to make. Number two, you mentioned that like he put Stephanie and Triple H in control, and you know he stepped away, quote unquote. And now he's back. I saw this coming. I completely saw this coming. I knew that he was giving Triple H like this for now, but like he can't help himself. You know, he's too much of a control freak. And I saw little bits and pieces of like Vinceisms just sprinkled onto the show ever since I saw the news that he was back as executive, whatever crap, chief officer, whatever the hell is
executive chairman of the board or something.
Whatever bullshit. Chairman, whatever the hell he wants to be. Like he's already getting sued because he's practically still breaching his contract because there's been reports that he's been telling people what they've been doing wrong while he's gone, but he's not supposed to. Didn't he just put out last week or the week prior something along the lines that he won't be touching anyone's position, but a few days later he's already back on his bull crap? Like he's 70-something years old. All right. With I don't know if he has dementia or not, but he's very out of touch. Okay, I appreciate all the stuff that Vince has given me. He definitely was a huge part of my childhood with what he did with professional wrestling, but he's so out of touch and he just needs to stay over there. If he wants to do all like the business stuff and he wants to just work with stockholders and all that stuff like that, that's fine. I don't care. But as far as what goes on with the show, he needs to just stay away. He needs to stay away. Like there's nothing good that's going to come out of it. Not that Triple H has been doing much better of a job. No offense. He's done like 2 or 3 good things. But other than that, the show is still flatlining. But as far as somebody buying it, I was hoping that the Saudis wouldn't. That's still in the air. They still have, you know, a possibility, or it could go to somebody else. I would just be frustrated if the Saudis did, just because with the way that their government operates, there's a few towns that would suffer. Some people that came to mind immediately when I saw that headline, even though the news ended up being false, was Sammy. Sammy wasn't even allowed the country the first time around for the pay-per-view. Right. And Sammy's a huge part of the Bloodline storyline. Like, can you imagine what would they do if there's no Sammy? You know what I mean? Like, what do you do in that emergency situation if that is the only good storyline going on with WWE right now? That was person number one I thought about. And then I thought about people like Sonya, who's gay, and Tegan Knox. I'm like, would these people lose their jobs?
Shayna Baszler too, right?
Shayna Baszler, yeah. Like, there'd be people that would lose work. So I was just, that's the main reason why I was bothered. I was on Twitter and I saw like a whole racism argument going on. It had nothing to do with race. My biggest concern is the quality of the talent, you know,
Right.
the with their career. That was my biggest like ick that I had about that whole thing. So I don't know what's going to happen with this company, but I'm hanging on by like the finest string. And the thing about right now is that we have two other major promotions. New Japan just got a hold of Sasha, even though they didn't sign her yet, but they got a hold of her.
Right.
And AEW, it's still up in the air if Tony's going to get Sasha. And on top of that, he's been doing a damn good job since that medium scrum with, you know, his little comeback game to get that company back on track. Right now, wrestling fans have options. And I feel like WWE kind of needs to pull it together with their show because we could check out and just go elsewhere.
Right.
And I'm just about ready to. If I didn't record for podcasts, I would jump ships. Go ahead.
I mean, I posted about this, and I already put it out there. If the Saudi Arabian group actually bought them, I definitely would be done with WWE because I can't, in good conscience, support a product that's brought to you by Saudi Arabian propaganda. Like, that's bullshit. Like, I know how they treat people in the Middle East, and especially in Saudi Arabia. I mean, they can, you know, WWE can go on and on about them being progressive and this and that. And it's like, oh yeah, you know, they're only about, you know, 500 years behind the rest of the world when it comes to treatment of people of other religions, people of other sexual orientation. I mean, it's pretty fucking awful there. I mean, you know, they put people to death there for just speaking up. I mean,
yeah.
a lot of people started talking about, you know, China or Russia or these other places. Is like a lot of people don't really bring it up, but the Saudi Arabian government and the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the way they mistreat people can easily throw someone in jail, you know, put someone to death. I mean, shit's scary. It's crazy. I mean, I wouldn't support WWE whatsoever if they were bought by them. So I'm glad that they're kind of saying, well, that was not the case and that was a rumor. But I mean, who knows? We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And if it happens, it happens. And like you said, we got options. So
I've never been so stressed to be a wrestling fan a day in my life until literally the beginning of this year. Last year was stressful too, but that news just shook the entire world. Like, it went on the news. They had to cover it the next morning because we were that shook at night.
Right.
But
if anything, you know how they say, you know, no news is bad news. Well, in a way that's true, in a way it's not. But if anything, it's given WWE probably more attention. It looks like their ratings over the last week SmackDown ratings went up. Raw ratings. Oh my God, I can't talk. Raw ratings went up. So they're getting attention. People are tuning in because, you know, they're it might not be the good attention that they want, but
do you think it was deliberate? Cause I was wondering that when I saw Russell Talk tweet that out. I just tapped on the page, the little article that they had. There was no actual article. They just said breaking news, this headline.
Right.
And you have to think about it. Wrestle Kingdom just happened. Sasha Banks, sorry, I got to stop saying that name. Mercedes Moné stole the show, stole the month. Everyone could not stop talking about her. And again, AEW has been on a roll. So I can't help but to think, all right, WWE hasn't been doing anything like that was really notable. You could skip watching the, you know, television show and just skip to the pay-per-views and you really wouldn't have missed a damn thing. You'd be up to speed. Right. Do you think that they did that on purpose?
In the wrestling, in the world of professional wrestling, and when it comes to Vince McMahon, the guy is, you could say whatever you want about him, he's scumbag, you know, this and that, but he's a master of what he does. He's been doing it for 40-something years, and you just never know. You never know what's planted. You never know what's bullshit. you're never going to know until they officially announce it, you know, so-and-so has bought the WWE. So, yeah, I mean, with Vince, you never know.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I hope it's not.
And on that note, that was exhausting just talking about that, thinking about
right?
that.
I'm stressed all over again. Thanks.
Right? That's gonna do it for our first show of 2023. Mo, thank you so much for being on and being my new co-host. Tell everyone where they can find you.
You guys can find me on my Instagram. That's just Mo. If you want to find me on Twitter, that is just Mo, since that wasn't, available. And if you want to follow my other podcasts where I'm a co-host at Culture 316 on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, come check us out. Thank you again for even giving me this opportunity to be your new co-host. I love working with you. The last 3 times I think I've been on here. Man, it the chemistry is just on point. I love it. Tony's a good time, y'all.
Well, thank you so much, Mo. I appreciate that. We got some guests lined up, so stay tuned. Keep an eye out on our social medias. Mo's going to be doing something with our Twitter because I'm old and I don't know how to fucking use social media. So Mo's going to be spicing some things up for us.
You see any reckless tweets, you know who it's coming from.
So keep an eye out us. ATW's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, our YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, share, tell everybody about it. Happy New Year, everybody. It's 2023. New things coming for ATW, All Things Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Twist, joined by Miss Mo. Happy Sunday, everybody, and we're out of here.